Merry Christmas, everyone. It is Christmas Eve, and it is time to do the brakes today. So we got just a few hours. We're going to try to get this done, so we're just getting right into it. Here they are, ready to go. Car's pulled in, a little damp yet. Got the space heater out here trying to make sure the garage is warm because we are going to paint the calipers as well. I'm just going gloss black. We'll talk about it as we get moving along. Let's get the car in the air and get to it. All right, the rotor itself doesn't look too terrible. It's not rough, it's still smooth. A couple of things you're gonna want though is probably a large flathead screwdriver or a pry bar. And you're definitely going to want a ratchet and socket set just to make sure you have all you need. An air impact tool will be nice if you can't get some of these bolts loose, but you should be able to by hand with a good size ratchet wrench. So let's get to it. Pull this bad boy off. Some brake cleaner would be handy as well, and obviously if you're changing out the rotors, it's a good idea to change out the pads. So we'll do that too. One here and one on the lower side of the caliper. That takes the actual caliper off, which will leave the pads remaining with the caliper bracket, I suppose you'd call it. Those are 14mm bolts, and then you have the larger 19mm bolts here that hold that actual bracket on. Start with just taking the caliper off. It just separates the two, like I said, and that just gives you a little bit more room to work. Basically, when you're taking anything apart on your vehicle, you want to make sure you pay attention to where it went. Even though there's only 2 bolts holding the caliper onto the bracket, you never know. There could be variation, and you want to put them right back. So we're looking at this one. The top one has a little black tip on it. Once you break them loose with the wrench, they turn pretty easily. And no tip on the bottom one. See, I'm not sure it'll make a difference. They're only threaded a little ways up. They act more like guide pins, and they are greased, so don't get a bunch of crap all over them while you're waiting to put them back in. This just pops off easily. Now, if you can, push the piston or the plunger back in. It's pretty darn difficult to do it when the caliper is off. It's just obviously full of fluid and it's under pressure, so you're not going to be able to do it with your fingers. They have a brake caliper press kind of contraption at Harbor Freight for a few bucks. I've used C-clamps before in the past, and they work with a little piece of wood in there. Whatever you need to do to get that pushed in to give you some more room to put the new pads in there. You don't want to put any stress on your brake lines either, so make sure you put the caliper up out of the way, supported. You don't want it dangling. Pops right off. Good opportunity to pop the pads up and just inspect them. Full of gunk, and they're in pretty rough shape. We've pushed these brakes pretty hard over the last several months, so even being in the rears, they've taken some abuse, so we're going to switch those out. Also, be careful doing it of these boots if you're not going to replace them. Take a wire brush or a stiff bristle brush and some brake cleaner, clean these bad boys up, and put a coat of paint on them. There's some guys obviously that'll give you crap for painting your baby brakes, but why not? We got everything off. They're exposed. They look like garbage, like this, and that crappy silverish color that's all messed up, corroded, and discolored. Why keep them like that? So I'll put a nice little coat of paint on them, clean them up. Doesn't matter if they're baby brakes, they still work pretty good, and you still want your car looking good, so that's what we're gonna do. And remember guys, I'm not a mechanic, never would say I am. I've just done this kind of mode of operation and changing brakes for many years now, so by all means, if there's any other tips and tricks, please share them. As far as painting the calipers, I could prep them much better than I am, but I'm limited on time, of course, so I'm just doing a quick scrub down with this wire brush, hitting it with some brake cleaner and some mineral spirits just to get rid of all the grease and whatnot that's all over my hands and I'm touching. And I'm just going to spray them a quick coat of gloss black, like I said. I'm actually using engine enamel. It's like $7.99. Oh, and if you get the brake caliper paint, which is essentially the same thing, it's high heat or heat resistant with ceramic, enamel with ceramic, and that's like $9.99. So same brand, $2 difference, and it's the same freaking paint. This is heat resistant, obviously, because it's engine enamel. But anyway, we're doing black, gloss black, give a little contrast from the wheels. But we're, you know, geez, nice. We're not trying to draw attention to the baby brakes. Obviously, this is a temporary deal until we get the big brakes. But we still want them looking good. But again, I'm not drawing a bunch of attention to them. So I don't want to do silver. I don't want to do any crazy blue or anything. I'm not a big color caliper guy. So I prefer silver generally, or black, or whatever. But again, not drawing attention, so we're just going with black. All right, we're ready to pull the rotor off. If you live up north, you may need a rubber mallet. Tap it on the back here and get it loose, but in my case, it's already pretty loose. So I'm gonna jiggle it and she'll pop off. That's a good idea if this is all gunky and grimy, to take that wire brush and brake cleaner, clean that up too. Get rid of some of this corrosion. And then you can pop the new rotor on. Another little trick or tip. This little guy here is how you adjust your brake, your parking brake. And you'll see the 6th hole here on your new rotor. And on your old rotor, you may have noticed you have this little guy. It's actually just a little rubber plug. It's just an access port. And the plug keeps the crap out, obviously. Pop that out. Just with your thumb or whatever. There you go. And put it in your new rotor right now. Because you don't want to actually accidentally press it all the way through once the rotor is on the hub, and then you got to disassemble and all that crap again. So there we go. And basically you just want to line up the holes and put the thing on. Good. Whew, they look nice. And pay attention to the direction also. Generally the slots go like a wheel would in the direction of the spokes in a wheel. They would be rotating towards the front of the car. I should mention the pads that we went with this time. I went with the Power Stop Evolution Sport. It's a carbon fiber ceramic performance pad, as you can see. I was really happy with these pads. I just wanted to check out kind of a budget pad before I went on my first mountain run with this car almost a year ago. And these actually are really solid. Like I said, we found that the weak point of the braking system on this car, on the base model, was the rotors. The pads gripped really hard, and you know, for being the budget pad that they are. So I went with them again, front and rears, and we'll test it out. They really are actually low brake dust, which I was super happy with. Having black wheels especially, you know, it's a challenge keeping them clean. So a good pad for the money for sure. When we upgrade, we're going to try something a little more aggressive. Don't quote me, but I think the Evolution Sport is the most aggressive Power Stop pad for this car, at least. That's it. That's all I gotta say about that. Okay, calipers painted. Now we just have to replace these guide bracket deals, clips. I'm not sure what they're called, but they slide right back into the slot. Tried not to get any overspray in there. Some people like to throw a little grease in there. I don't know. Magic. They're back in. Your brakes will come. Ooh, I did get a little overspray on the boot. No big deal. We'll do some mineral spirits and get it off. But anyway, because I was going to replace them, so I didn't really care. I left them on to cap the hole. Rear brake pads will come. Where the hell are they now? Pads will come with replacement boots. That's why I wasn't worried about getting overspray on these. I was going to replace them. However, when I put them on the other side, they're really flimsy. They seem like kind of cheap rubber, and they're a little sticky. They would stick to themselves. And it just weren't sealing up well on the guide pins, so I decided not to replace them. So shame on me for being hasty, but we'll get these cleaned up. Simplest way that I've discovered is just get your pads in place. They're not totally secure in here, so just be careful. And you're going to get your 19mm bolts and get this first portion in place on the rotor. Finger tight for now, and then we'll get the caliper on, and then we'll secure everything down in both these. If you've pushed your plunger in far enough, this should slide right over. Now you don't want to push your plunger in too far and have that the seal or the boot or the rubber, whatever the hell you want to call it, come up and over the metal part. You don't want to ruin your caliper, obviously, so be gentle, but you just kind of slide it right on. All right, slid into place. We got, where are we? Here we go. The guide pins, remember, there's a black tip. Little jiggle. Same for the lower side. Boom. They should finger tighten really easy. Don't cross thread, don't get crazy. And then, of course, you want to go back and tighten them to spec. I think it's 900,000 foot-pounds for the big ones and 76,000 foot-pounds for the small one. No, I'm just kidding. I actually don't remember. I think it is 90 something for these and maybe 25 for the small ones. But don't quote me on that. You want to check and make sure you get specs right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there she is, looking pretty good. I forgot to mention, you might want to take some brake cleaner and make sure the braking surface of the rotor is clean, free of any grease or grime from your hands or dirty gloves. You just don't want it contaminating your pads and causing issues. A couple of new spacers too that I threw on. Don't forget your hub centering rings. But I didn't want to put these nasty things back on. So nice, much better. Even though they're tiny, they look much better. All right, I'm gonna turn the car around, do the fronts. Probably not gonna film as much just so I can get this done. Doing the rears and filming took about an hour and a half. So we wanna knock out the front as quick as I possibly can. So we'll check in along the way and we'll get done. First front one on. I actually had the new spacers laying around for this one as well. I had 5mm spacers. These are 8, and these are actually already hub centric. These are some good spacers. If I can find them or I can remember, I'll put a link in the description, but these are awesome. I think I had a little bit more room to push the fronts out to get them even a little more flush. So hopefully we don't run into any rubbing issues. I don't think we will. There you go. The fronts are a little more, I don't want to say difficult, but it's a little more work getting these out. You're going to need a 21mm socket because the bolts here are a little more robust and a little stronger, so you got to get some leverage. They look pretty damn good in there. I actually don't mind the caliper being black. It's just not noticeable, which is cool. Rotor looks decent despite being tiny. We'll get the other side done and then we'll get these things broken in. I'm curious to see what the fitment is like once we lower this all the way down with this 8mm spacer, so we'll see. All right, driver's side done. So how we do this, obviously, is you got to get up to speed. You know, I think the directions say 45, but a lot of guys will go 60 and then slam on the brakes hard all the way down to 10, and they'll do that, 10, 12 times or so until the brakes get really hot and bedded. What you don't want to do is get the brakes really hot and then stop at a stop sign. So try to get on a a road that's open enough to where you can just kind of go straight down and not have to worry about coming to a complete stop. And if you do have to come to a stop sign, try not to stop all the way. I know it's illegal, but you know, you want to prevent any weird uneven heating. You know, if you got the brake super hot and then you stop at a stop sign with the brake pads clamped onto the rotor, you're going to get a weird mark, and that's where you're going to get the you know, the vibration, the weird uneven heating. So I'm trying not to get them too hot until I can get out on this open road, and we'll go through the cycle. We've gone through a couple. There's one. They feel pretty good. I've done several of these cycles now. Everything feels smooth. The brakes grip hard. They're quiet so far, which is great. So what you want to do once you get them nice and hot and you go through the cycle is you don't want to go just park the car immediately. You want to drive around and make sure they kind of go through a cooling cycle then. So we've heated them up, we've bedded in the pads and the rotors together. We've kind of, you know, helped them mesh and mingle and work well together. We'll do one more here. Pretty good, pretty good. And now you want them to cool down. You will know when they get hot too, because they start to stink, and depending on what the coating is, the R1 comes with a coating that's going to be burning off. They stink pretty bad, to be honest with you. But we got quite the stench, and I think we broke them in, so we're heading back to the garage, cooling them down, and we should be good to go. No poke? I think it'll be perfect. Whoa. Well, these are feeling really good. Like I said, they're nice and quiet, so this is awesome. I'm pretty pleased. Actually, the base model, premium model Q50 brakes, the calipers themselves, the Akebono brakes, are actually pretty decent. They are dual piston, single-sided, obviously. But we've found and proven, I think, that the weak point of the brake system is the factory rotors and the factory pads. So a little more aggressive pad and a nice rotor is going to go a long way in really helping improve the braking of your base or premium Q50. But other than that, the brakes are, the base and premium model brakes are very solid. Upgrading brakes, whether it's the complete package, the calipers, pads, and rotors, or you're just doing a nice rotor, caliper, or a rotor pad upgrade, the point is a little bit to improve braking distance, but more so the fact, or the goal is to improve braking consistency and reducing brake fade, and having nice, you know, high quality pads as well as a quality rotor is going to help with that. You may decrease your overall stopping distance a little bit, you know, but what you're really going to notice is after really pushing the car and coming into corners hard over and over and over, that braking is going to be really consistent. You know, your first corner is going to feel like your 10th corner, or your 20th corner, or your 30th corner. It's going to, you know, you're going to feel more in control of the car. The pedal is going to stay firm longer, and it's just going to be an overall better experience. It's going to, gosh, I really do love these Power Stop pads. I have nothing bad to say about them. I say they're budget pad, but I think the set of 4 was, I want to say $120 or something like that. They're not super cheap. I mean, you can certainly find much cheaper pads out there for, you know, like $20 for, you know, the fronts, and $20 for the rears, but I wouldn't go that low. That color's wearing off already, but good looking. Well, guys, not too bad of a job. Pretty simple. I think you'd do it in a few hours, even if you've never done it before. Pretty straightforward job. 4 bolts essentially. Just make sure you have the right socket and ratchet available. May need a breaker bar or an air tool. But you can break them loose by hand if you have a little bit of grunt behind it. Again, if you didn't see the unboxing video, these are the R1 Concepts E-Line drilled and slotted rotors. They are OE spec for the base and premium model. They fit really nice, they look really nice, they're quiet on the road so far through break-in, and they're looking good. I like how they look, and again, easy project to do on your own. If you're wondering, that 8mm spacer that I put in the front, fitment is really, really nice. It looks solid, but I would say that's the biggest spacer you're going to want to put on the car. I was able to get 3 threads, or 3 full turns, finger tightening, and then, you know, another turn or so beyond that with, you know, with the big wrench. So I think the wheels are secure, but I wouldn't go much wider of a spacer. Again, that's 8mm. If I can remember, I'll put a link in the description, but I like those a lot. Really push those wheels. They're 9.5-inch wheels, and they're 250 540 19s. So there's a little tiny bit of stretch on them, but there's no poke from the wheel, and the tire really fits in the wheel well nicely. So we'll see how it is at full lock or going out of the driveway, but just on the little cruise there was no rubbing, no issue, so all good there. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. I really appreciate your support over the last year. It's been really awesome. Really looking forward to 2020. Thank you guys very much for following along. I hope everyone had a great holiday season, and we'll see you probably maybe one more time before 2020.